just got a suggestion on the list of bullet points, page 66.
Yes.
We have in the minutes the fact that a collective submission was presented, and there's no comment about that. So third to bottom bullet point, I think it should read, a total of 440 submissions were received, plus a collective submission with about 6,000 signatures.
Over 6,000.
Well, I've said about.
I've got no problem with that, because
signatures.
that's the truth, and let's get on with it.
Thank you very much. And if you would like a reference to the minutes, it's on page 72, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Bernard.
Just on that point, just to refresh my memory, but I seem to recall you ruling that that wasn't a submission but a petition.
No, I didn't rule on it. I basically said, in my opinion, the Local Government Act does not take cognizance of numbers and petitions, and in my view, I saw it as not being a petition. However, put your hand down, Councillor Vargan. However,
Yes,
some
sir.
councillors in the room disagreed with me, and I didn't make a ruling on it as such. Now, if I had to put my foot down and made a ruling, before I had done that, of course, I would have got a legal opinion, even though the word is at the top on that petition, as I saw it, had the word submission. And you have to look up the dictionary to see what a submission is, and you might be surprised. Councillor Carroll,
Is he standing?
He was a little boy before.
I actually got confused. I saw Councillor McKelvey's hand shoot up, and I was going to go to her, and I thought, no, to heck with her. She can wait. Mr. Carroll.
It's just dawned on me, there's one aspect we haven't reflected in this list, and that was during the end of the hearings, just before the deliberations, we had the collective submission, submission from the collective hapu.
Yes, we did.
Who came and spoke. So I think it's probably quite important that we reflect
you can put that in there too, if you like. Yep. But before I go to anybody else, Councillor Vargan, you did have your hand up. Did you want to say something?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, it said at the top of that, collective submission. Nowhere on that collection did it refer to anything remotely related to a petition. It was called a collective submission, and I think that's what we should.
You weren't listening to me. I did say that.
Yes, I appreciate that. I'm just reiterating, Mr. Chairman, what you said.
Parrots are normally kept in a cage. I don't see you in a cage today, Councillor.
I don't think you ever will, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor McKelvey.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I was just supporting your view by referring to page 72 of the minutes, which the word petitions are to be replaced with collective submission.
Yep. All right.
Thank you.
Anything else on that page? Did someone say they want to get rid of those pictures because Mr. Gibbs is dominating them?
No, they didn't.
No.
Okay, good.
Never heard that, sir.
Page 67. Nothing on? Yes, Mr. Carroll.
The comment was made right near the beginning that all of the background reports that were produced were then fed into the development of the draft. I think it's probably important that we make some specific note here that that was actually the case, and that some of the background material and the way that the reports have been used has altered as we've moved through the process.
Very nice.
So I just want to acknowledge that comment that was made earlier.
All right. Councillors, any other comments on that page? Councillor McKelvey?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if we could just enlarge that a little along the lines that the consultants' reports, some of them were fed in and others reflected comment on the draft. And in particular, the Gabbity's Porter September 2009 report, we asked for additional information after the draft had been first considered by councillors. And that reflected on the amended draft. Sorry, that reflected on the original draft. I think that's quite important. If I could just give you the reference, for example, just to explain, Mr. Chairman. Where is it? Page 74. On the right-hand side, I don't have the Gabbity's Porter conclusions, but that report concluded on what was proposed, and it says, the first one said, the traffic calming of Tongariro Street is likely to result in the displacement of traffic onto Ruapehu Street. Now that is correct to an extent, but during the discussions and the deliberations, we determined that in the short to medium term, that it was not the intention to encourage the majority of traffic along Tongariro Street to go on to Ruapehu Street. I can't remember the exact words, but so we've just got to be careful so that this, if that is taken directly out of the report, that timing-wise it reflects correctly.
All right. Anything else on 67? Page 68. These are all background stuff. Any comments on that, Mr. Carroll?
No.
Happy? Councillors? Councillor Kelly?
Well, I just suggest this is one of the longer reports, and I think the way in which this has been amended to fit the final structure plan, I think you've amended it well. Because there's a lot that hasn't been included that was included previously. And thank you.
Very brief snapshot.
It's a very, very brief snapshot, and it takes out all that stuff that was in there about a building that is no longer going to take place, a 3-storey building on the North Domain. That's all been removed, so thank you.
Page 69.
I hope we got the faults right. The mapping of the faults.
Over to page 70.
This was the one, Mr. Chairman, that I raised before, and I think Mr. Carroll explained it at the time, right at the beginning, that the old rurally zoned area on Arataki Road, which is now proposed in this final document to be industrial, did not have a landscape assessment undertaken on it because it was not considered necessary at the time, because it wasn't proposed as industrial. And I think we've got those notes already, but if it could just be reflected in this section here. Because it says in that first sentence, the purpose of the landscape assessment was to look at the future industrial growth areas and identify sites with landscape significance. With the exception, you've got to make an exception there, with the exception of the Arataki Road, the extension of the Arataki Road proposed industrial zoning or something.
You guys happy with that? Okay. 71. No comments on 71. Page 72.
Yeah, I've got one here. This tourism consultant's report was really interesting, but the way in which the brief was worded sought that the report concentrated on a museum art gallery being associated in the same building as the proposed civic administration building. And therefore the top paragraph on the right, I think, is a little, I think the word is skewed, and doesn't actually relate now to the intention of the future museum and art gallery expansion to be on its existing site and south on the old women's bowling green. Not old women's, on the former women's
Careful.
bowling
I
green.
would say the former number 3 bowling green.
Thank you.
So I think the top paragraph could be removed on the right there.
I disagree, Mr. Chairman. I think and it was a contentious thing because we haven't decided whether we're actually going to extend the museum on the year.
There's a resolution in here.
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, I would just like to put that again. If you look at the brief to the consultants, and the consultants gave an independent report, they were asked to consider the advantages of the museum art gallery being in the same building. Now, the fact that there has been a majority decision in the council subsequent to that to investigate the museum and art gallery development on its own site, that is independent of the original brief given to the consultant. So I'm suggesting that that top paragraph could be amended in the same way as certain parts of the economic assessment have been amended that now no longer relate to the final structure plan.
Mr. Carroll, you're looking...
Could we suggest that that perhaps the appropriate place to make it very clear about the direction of the brief, which I think Cal is very correct on, is right at the beginning of this section where we talk about the assessment. So we make it very clear that the brief was looking at a combined building.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
This paragraph that we're talking about at the top of the right-hand column was more discussing the linkage or the benefits of linkage between the eyesight and a cultural arts heritage facility, regardless of whether it's combined with a council building.
So it's more clarifying the limitations of the study rather than what the study said. Because this is just what the study said. We've made other decisions, but this is what the study said.
Yes, I'd agree with that, as long as it's very clear that this paragraph at the top has had no influence on the council's decision, because it hasn't.
No.
And I would suggest to you that you could go to many, many successful art galleries and museums internationally and within New Zealand and Australasia that have eyesights nowhere near them, and they are successful in their own right. So I think you've got the point.
All right. 73. Anything on there? $74.
Can I just go back to 73?
Yes.
This providing a vision for the roadmap went on to provide a vision for the town centre and a set of principles. Reconnect our town with the international stage. Sounds glorious, but what does it mean?
All we've done is taken the report and stated what its principles were.
This is the background information that you were given.
So, like all the other technical reports.
It was the vision for the town centre and the set of principles. Well, it was pretty hairy-fairy, wasn't it?
This is Village Well's work, and we're not suggesting that it had any more influence on the final decisions of this plan than anything else. This is just the background about what they came up with when they did their placemaking exercise. So anything a little vague in there could well be vague to anyone reading the whole document, perhaps.
Well, I'm glad, because it's also got the renewing our spirits. So there's your spirits coming back.
Well, that's
to
all right. We've already
Councillor.
spoken about 3 or 4 times about the Bible today.
Yeah.
Page 74.
And it's just bullshit bunkum, quite frankly.
That's the one I spoke about before, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
I was just going to raise that. Okay, so it's there. 75. They look like sewage pipes, water pipes.
Potential.
No comments there.
75.
Page 76. This is all to do with water supply, wastewater and stormwater.
just some